Assalamualaikum and very good evening to Dr. Hafizah Hajimia. Today we are going to present the task that we have been assigned, which is task A1, type of communication. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nasriq bin Abdul Rahman.
And my name is Arinah binti Zulkifli.
My name is Maisarah binti Roslan.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Farah binti Cik Ismail. Movie that we choose to explain about the communication is Red Notice. So now I will pass to Arinah to start presenting our task.
I'm gonna leave now, and when he wakes up, you're gonna tell him that you triggered the alarm falsely and in his haste he tripped coming through the door.
For the first part, we observe the communications of the main character with another individual. Okay, for this scene, I can conclude that this is under verbal formal downward communication. The components or elements in the communication are sender, the bishop, played by Gal Gadot, receiver, intelligence analyst, played by Alexander Perkins. Next is the message. The bishop asked the intelligence analyst to lie about what had happened. The medium is spoken. Feedback, the intelligence analyst just nod his head, and the environment is in the office.
Are you carrying your side?
I'm offended you'd even ask me that.
Do something, it's slipping.
Oh, relax, Baldilocks.
Based on the video, we can see that this is a verbal communication under informal type, and it is a literal communication. It is because Booth and Hartley are one of the prisoners in a prison at one of the isolated places in Russia. Component or element in the communication is, we can note that Nolan Booth is the sender and the receiver is the John Hartley. The message that Nolan Booth want to deliver is, Booth felt offended because Hartley said he did not carry the rod properly, and it is a spoken medium. As for the feedback, Hartley insists Booth to do something as the rod is still sleeping. And last but not least, the environment of the previous scene is in a prison area.
To the end of our business.
And the beginning of our pleasure.
For the next scene, it shows verbal communication. In verbal communication, have two types, that is formal and informal. In this scene, we can see informal communication. Informal communication is for the type of communication with family or friends. As we can see here, the scene between the bishop and Sotoboche as business partner. It includes grapevine communication. Grapevine communication is called as backstabbing, like the bishop betrays Sotoboche by poisoning him. Now I will explain about the component or element of communication in this scene that show here. So the sender in this scene is Gal Gadot as the bishop, and the receiver in this scene is Chris as Sotoboche. Message that they want to convey in this scene is that the bishop want to celebrate their business by drinking wine, but the wine is poison to give to a Sotoboche. So the medium here is spoken. The feedback is that the Sotoboche was poisoned by the bishop. Lastly, environment. Environment in this scene is in the basement.
Based on this scene, we can see it is a non-verbal communication which is using their body language, and it is a contradict type. Next, I'm going to explain about the components or elements in this communication. The sender for this communication is Nolan Booth and the receiver is the bishop. The message that he wants to say using his body language is he's showing that he is ready to fight but end up running from the scene. And the communication channel for this one is body language, and the feedback that he got is the bishop rolled her eyes as Booth escaped from the fight. And lastly, the environment for this communication is it happened in a closed room.
Next, these are types of nonverbal communication that can affect communication. For kinesics, it includes facial expression, gesture, eye movement, posture, and rate of walk. While for paralinguistic, it focuses on how words are spoken and variation in voice. Proxemics covers on how space and distance are used. Haptics shows on different types of touching, while clothing and artifacts are based on appearance and style. Color is a variations in clothing and environmental colors. And last but not least, chronemics is a time to communicate.
Nonverbal communication. In this scene here, have a function of nonverbal communication that is emphasizing. As we can see in this scene, that Soto Watcher make an accused with anger that is Hartley and Booth's fault that caused the bishop to betray him was still indigenous with the effect of poisons. It also shows type of bodily cues that is illustrated that support or reinforce speech, like he pointing his finger to Hartley and Booth. Next is complimenting. Complimenting is to praise or express admiration for someone. We can see in this scene that the bishop praised Hartley. She says such a clever discuss to Hartley. The next one is emblems. Emblem is bodily cues. It's to deliberate body movement that can translate into speech. In this scene, we can see that the bishop mocking Hartley by saying Baba Hey John Hartley with hand movement.
Next, I'm going to present about how body language can make communication worse. The first one is it can send false interpretation. When one cannot express the feeling while communicating off face, therefore the second person can never know the real intentions of the other one. For example, when Bishop are fighting with Booth, Booth body language showing that he is ready to fight, but end up he escaped from the fighting scene. And the next one is it can show a lack of confidence. When a person averted or prevent eye contact, it can be an indicator that a person is self-conscious or lying. This is shown by Booth when he was asked if he knew about the location of the eggs.
Don't shoot. I'm not trying to be a tattletale. We didn't steal your egg, okay? I mean, we tried, but she got it.
He's telling you the truth.
Is that so?
Thank you. Oh, all right.
Would you like to make a confession?
Next, I will explain the advantages and disadvantages of verbal communication. For the advantages, both say they did not want to steal the egg. It is the least time consuming, more direct and simple. But for the disadvantages, in the meantime, they also trying to steal the egg even though they said otherwise. So it is very confusing and not convincing.
Next is advantages and disadvantages of non-verbal communication. For the scene where Soto Voce ordered his bodyguard to arrest Hartley and Booth by pointing his finger. The advantages of the communication for this scene is it is very helpful for illiterate people. This type of communication use gestures, eye contact, proximity, and etc. without using any spoken word. But the disadvantages for this communication is it is very difficult to understand. It requires a lot of repetition in non-verbal communication and it may not be understandable for certain people. Before we end our presentation for today, I would like to read quotes from Nika Gamble, which is, a lot of problems in the world would be solved if we talk to each other, instead of about each other. And that's all from us. Thank you.